I want to welcome you to Stop 4 on the Roadmap to Driving Results with our webinar series. Today's session is How to Win with Email Marketing. This session, like I said, is part of a webinar series that we're running all this week to help small businesses and nonprofits like yours really focus on foundations that will make your online marketing efforts more successful. When we're talking to so many small businesses out there, we find that they often have foundational elements or strategies that aren't set up or simply working to their benefit. To find success with online marketing, we suggest using a variety of online marketing tools, and the big thing is to use them together. In the last few days, we've talked about the foundations and how they all work together, the essential elements of an effective website, harnessing the power of listings and reviews, and today we're talking about winning with email marketing. Why email? Well, over the years, a lot of things have really changed with technology and digital marketing, but it's important to know that email still works. Let's take a look at some stats. We know that 80% of professionals say that email marketing drives customer acquisition and retention, and the ROI is phenomenal. For every $1 spent on email marketing, there is an average of $36 for the return on investment. And that means that the money you spend on your email marketing budget will come back to you multiple times over. And the reason that email still works is that it's such a great way to reach your customers or prospects wherever they are. Email marketing really is hard to beat. In fact, we know that 99% of people check their email daily. And 60% regularly check email on their smartphones. I'm constantly doing that. Now, many of us can relate to this on a daily basis, and so can your audience. Email works because it brings you to where your customers are, especially when it comes to a mobile device. The other thing to keep in mind is that email marketing is really reliable as well. Email from Constant Contact gets delivered 97% of the time. The thing is, you get to control when you communicate with your customers and prospects, and you're not at the beck and whim of social media channels like Facebook who actually restrict your reach unless you pay for it. For example, we know that organic Facebook posts reach only 2.2% of fans. No matter what kind of business or organization you have, email really allows you to meet several goals. One, you can increase awareness. We have a customer from Farmhouse Delivery here on the screen, and here's what she says. Email marketing is key in delivering our seasonal and evergreen campaign stories to our customers. Pretty powerful. And of course, email helps you to drive revenue and profit directly. Our customer, Julia, says that emails and sharing information directly result in sales. And here's another one that's great for boosting repeat business with email marketing. So Luna Garden Farm, for example, boosts repeat business by sending about their new subscriptions. They say, we announced our new subscription through email and sold out that same day, just from email. You really can too harness the power of the inbox just like these people have. And by the end of this session today, you're going to be armed with the strategies and tactics to help you harness the power of the inbox and really use email marketing as a way to grow your business or nonprofit. With that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at the agenda and see what we're going to cover today. We're going to start by telling you a little story about the reluctant small business owner. Then we're going to walk you through 5 simple steps that will help you be successful with your email marketing. And all throughout today, we're going to talk about some ways that you can get started with email marketing as well. Before we get into the details, I'd like to more formally introduce myself as well as my guest for today. My name is Stephanie French, and I'm the content manager for webinars here at Constant Contact. I'm well versed in email and online marketing tools and strategies, and I'm very excited to bring back Dave Charest. He's been joining me for all of these sessions this week. He's the director of content marketing here at Constant Contact. And Dave, I'll let you hop on and say a quick hello.
Well, hello, everyone. Once again, thank you so much for all your feedback on the sessions thus far, and thank you for being with us here today. And I'm sorry that I got kicked off at the last session there at the end. I'm glad it was the end, and I blame my wife for streaming TikToks. It had to be something like that. I don't know. So anyway, I'm glad to be here. I hope we go without a hitch today, and I'm really excited to talk really the email. And I mean, if you've heard us speaking all week, we keep kind of pointing back to email as kind of the core of your digital marketing strategy. And this is where we're going to get into those strong foundations that no matter where you are, no matter where you go, and as you start to advance and grow and get more advanced with your tactics, these things are going to be at the foundation of what you do. And I'm super excited to share that information with you here today.
Awesome. And we've had lots of questions and interest throughout the week, but I want to let you all know that we have tons of webinars, including ones that'll walk you through constant contact tools and more like the sessions that we are actually doing this week, talking more about strategies that you can use. So if you look in the chat window, we've got Caitlin, who's wonderful and helping us behind the scenes. And or actually it's Rachel today, and Rachel is actually going to be helping us to share the link to that schedule. You can always go in there and stay up to date on everything that's happening with the webinar programs here. So let's get started with a story about the reluctant small business owner. And Dave has been on the team that we're on here today for quite a while. And Dave is the one who actually worked with this customer. So Dave, I'm going to have you tell this story.
Why, thank you, Steph. I love telling this story because, well, it's about one of my favorite food groups, which is cheese. I'm sure many of you can join me in the love of cheese as well. So this is Peter. Peter Lovis. He owns a cheese shop in Concord, Mass, which when we were in the office is about 20 minutes away from our home office in Waltham, Massachusetts. And Peter's been a customer since 2009. And I met Peter when we started doing a podcast of our own back in the day called Small Biz Stories. And we were interviewing customers and talking to them. And when we first met him, he had some concerns about email. And even though he was doing it, he was very against it, so to speak. You can see the quote here on the screen where he was like, to me, I'm sending spam to these people because if I was to get it, it's spam to me. I don't want to hear about your business. I really don't. And I'm sure many of you on the line might have some similar feelings about email. And typically people feel this way about email because, well, you get in situations where you're connected with somebody that's doing email wrong, right? Email marketing is really one of what we call, and the reason why it's so effective is because it's a permission-based email marketing platform. People are actually, if you're doing it correctly, you're not just adding people to your list, you're having them opt in to say that, yes, they want to hear from you. And you know what we loved about Peter, like of course that he's selling cheese, but he, you know, like most of the people that we talked to, like many of the small businesses, he was a small business owner by trade and a marketer by necessity. And when it came to email marketing, he was really just kind of unsure what to do, if he could do it, and you know, if it was going to be worth his time. And so, you know, as the director of director of content at Constant Contact, I was really determined to change his mind because, you know, we're trying to create these resources to help people. And, you know, we really like Peter. We really saw the potential of what email marketing could do for his business because you've got, you know, something that pretty much sells itself most of the time, but he just had to kind of get out of his own way. And so maybe you're in a similar place where you're not sure of the value of email. Or it's maybe just not working for you the way you've hoped it would. Well, we're going to share some information here based on, you know, we got to know Peter a little bit better. And the reason we did this was because on our team, we have this guiding philosophy. And that philosophy is really that all good things come from focusing on the people that you're trying to reach. And I mentioned this philosophy because it's obviously served us well over the years because it's, you know, it's something that we use to create content all the time. We take your feedback, we listen to it, we try to create things that will be most helpful for you. And really, email marketing is really the same thing, or any marketing really. The more you can focus on who your customer is and the audience that you're trying to reach and creating things that speak to them and communicate with them and engage with them, you're going to be in a better place rather than just trying to, you know, scream buy, 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 or do something like that all the time. And so, you know, when you start to really focus on your audience and you start to share your expertise with them, maybe even challenge them to see an opportunity in a way that they didn't think they could see it, your marketing starts to create something more valuable to them, and it starts to differentiate you from your competitors. And so it starts to become an asset and something that people look forward to. And so we started to dig in a little bit deeper, as I mentioned, with Peter. And as I mentioned, he was a great in-person marketer. He was actually doing some really decent things on social with the small team that he had, helping him out with that. He's using Instagram and Facebook, for example, really well, but he just wasn't really tying it together with email. And he would tell us, you know, I do a sometimes monthly email. And, obviously we recommend consistency to help email work better, as with any other marketing. But if you'll look at that email on the side of your screen there, I'm sure we'll all agree that's a bit of an eyesore. As you can imagine, this would be very difficult to read on mobile. And I mean, I don't know how far away you are from your screen right now, but this email was much larger than what we have on the screen. It would probably fall into your lap, depending on how far you're sitting from your screen. But obviously, something like this was very time consuming, and which is one of the reasons why he had no sending consistency to his schedule. And so he's really just making email marketing difficult on himself. And so I came back with this idea for the team, and I said, all right, let's really think about how we can help Peter here. And here are the rules, right? The idea was to get Peter and his staff to know kind of what to do at each stage, what to do next, and if they got pulled away, they could come back and pick up where they left off. And so the solution that we would come up with had to be really simple for people to take action on, and have some step-by-step instruction for people. And any of those tasks should really take 15 minutes or less to make the best use of their time, and then they would know what to do next. And so those were really the rules, and what we came up with was this 5-step approach to email marketing, which we're gonna share with you here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Great story about Peter. And I took some time when I was out there in Boston a few years ago. Definitely a wonderful place to try and some wonderful cheeses to eat. So let's walk through these 5 steps that that Dave worked on with Peter, and we'll walk you through each of them. Before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and have Rachel launch a poll. We'd really love to know which of the following are you hoping to achieve with your email marketing strategy this year? And this is a check all that applies scenario. Is it build awareness of your business and organization, grow your list, engage your customers and supporters, drive more sales or raise more funds, or to complement your other marketing tactics and channels? We'll give everyone a minute to put in their answers there. Dave, this one's not surprising to me. So far, I see the highest amount, 64% of people who've responded are looking to drive more sales, raise more funds. Closely following behind that is to engage customers and supporters. And then it's growing, and in the poll, it says build awareness of my business or organization. So those are the top 3. 51% are saying grow my list, and 42% are saying to complement my other marketing tactics and strategies, which is great because that's something that we are talking a lot about this week. We're talking about a whole bunch of different tools that really should be supporting you in a bunch of different ways to help you reach ultimate success. And Dave, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add there.
Well, I mean, what's nice is that all of these things are really close. And of course, this is a check all that you can apply, but the reality is it can help you. Email marketing can help you achieve all of these things that you're trying to do with your email strategy. And it's just really kind of getting a plan together and taking action on that plan and making it easier for yourself and really focusing in. So yeah, I'm not surprised with all of these things because these are all really the things that you do need to do on a regular basis. It's just about shifting your priorities in terms of where you're focused first. But yeah, this is all great stuff.
Awesome.
Sorry,
Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and close out that poll, and we'll share the results with everyone. So we ended up with 65% of you saying build awareness, 68% of you saying engage my customers and supporters, 65 drive more sales and raise more funds, and then grow list, as well as to complement the other marketing tactics and strategies. So thank you so much for putting that out there. We can go ahead and close that now. But what are the 5 steps? Here we see them on the screen. Number 1, plan for success. Number 2, design for today's audiences. Number 3, create emails that drive action. Number 4, measure the impact your emails have on your business or organization. And then number 5, to grow your email list. So we're going to dive in and talk about each of these. And first, we're going to talk about how to really plan for success with email marketing. Dave mentioned it a little earlier, but sometimes people fail at email marketing, or anything for that matter, is because they don't have a plan that's easy to stick to. So Dave, I'll have you kick us off on creating an email marketing plan and what that looks like.
Sure. So we're going to give you here just a simple way to think about it. And again, remember, we want to try to, each of these tasks, let's try to get these done quickly and let's, so we can actually get going, because really with any marketing and email in particular, it's all about setting benchmarks for yourself and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And so the quicker you get started, the more you can start learning and you can start making adjustments that help you do better. And so one of the things that we want to do is really just think about what are those major holidays that, whether you're a business, retail, it doesn't really matter, whatever kind of business you have, or if you're a nonprofit, whatever it is, there are typically major holidays that are things that you'll want to communicate to your audience about. And so if you think about what those are, just have a sheet of paper, and we'll have some worksheets and things like that for you, but you can literally take a sheet of paper, write down the months of the year, and then put down those things or those events that are most important to your business that you know about. Include those specific events that are specific to your business. And so you might have a particular day where you have a fundraising event, or you might have an inventory clear out that you typically do if you're doing something like that. Maybe there's a special day like mom and pop, business owners day or something. You can then start to think of, like, if you've got any gaps in your calendar or the places where you don't have anything in there, you can then start to identify maybe those lesser known holidays to market for. So these are kind of like the made up days, and those are those things that, it's like National Grilled Cheese Day, right? Obviously that would be a great thing for our friend Peter to take advantage of and to send out an email about. You're looking for things that give you an excuse to communicate with your audience. And even if you try to find some type of tie-in that may not be directly connected, for example, right? Maybe it's National Grilled Cheese Day. You obviously don't sell cheese, but maybe you sell clothing or T-shirts, and you can say, we don't have grilled cheeses, but you can get one of these cheesy T-shirts. You know what I mean? Like, just little fun ways that you can start to tie in and have fun with these little holiday marketing ideas that they set up for you. So once you've got that, you've then got a sense of, okay, here are the times of the year that I need to communicate with somebody. From there, you want to take it to the next step. Maybe we can go to the next slide here and you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yep, so we've got a handout that you can actually take. Rachel's going to put it in the chat window right there. Take it and print it out. I'm someone who actually likes to physically write things down. It just clicks in my brain a lot better. And then we'll take it and you can put it within Constant Contact and start to create all of these things. But it's a 2022 marketing calendar that has all the dates of the big holidays and those, National Mom and Pop Business Owners Day and things like that that you can put in there. Start to circle and make notes for things that you want to pay attention to. And then once you have that planned, you can actually take that and put that information into Constant Contact. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how that works, Dave?
Yeah, so what's great about this is that Constant Contact does have a marketing calendar built in, and you can actually use that to help you plan this out. And so we have also a bunch of holidays put in there for you. You can select what you want and what you don't, but then you can pick. And we'll talk about what we want to do is, once we've got those dates that we want to plan for, we want to figure out, all right, how are we going to contact people and let people know about that? And so what we recommend is, when you have something that is based on a date, so something like one of these events, you want to send a 3-email series for these time-sensitive type of promotions or events. And what we recommend is a series that includes an announcement, a reminder, and a last chance. Now, let me just talk about this for a minute, because oftentimes people think like, oh, well, this, isn't that a lot of emails? And the reality is, if you're sending information to people that they're looking forward to receiving, right, they've opted into your list, they're okay from hearing from you. And actually what you're doing by sending multiple times is giving them opportunities to take up an offer that it's something that they may want to do. Example I will use, I will go back to my friend there, Peter at the cheese shop, is they did an event that was like an apple cider event where he had local people come in and sell their cider and have a tasting and do all of that. And it was like food and stuff. And I actually received that email early in the morning one time when he was doing this thing, and I was like, oh, this would be great. This would be a fun thing to take the family to and do that. And then I had to go bring my kids to school, so I never actually took the action to register for that event. And then I got the reminder about it, and I was at work, and I was like, oh yeah, there's that thing I wanted to do. Yeah. Now I got to go into this meeting, and I didn't, I still hadn't done it. And then I finally got that last chance email where it was like, hey, this is the time to do that, that was kind of the kick in the pants that I needed to be like, okay, yeah, I got to do this now, right? And so what you're really doing is giving them multiple opportunities to take that action, right? So this is why we recommend doing this in a 3 email series. Now, once you've done that, you're going to send these 3 emails. And so it's all about thinking about what that timing might look like. And so this is going to vary again from business to business, but we're going to give you a place to start. If you don't know where to start, you try this and you see what works and make adjustments from there. But if, let's say, we're using a New Year's sale that ends on the 21st of January, well, what you're going to do is you're going to want to send that announcement to let people know about it maybe 3 weeks out. And then you're going to send that reminder maybe 2 weeks out from that end date. And then that last chance reminder, you send that either a few days before or the day that that thing ends. And that gives you a nice little calendar of ideas of ways that you're going to send that information and give them multiple opportunities to take that up. And so you do that with all your events throughout all of the year. And now you have an idea of like, oh, here's the things that I'm going to be doing for the year. And here's what I'm going to be communicating about. And here's what I'm going to be sending about.
Awesome. So Lindsay asks, where does the marketing calendar live in Constant Contact? And I'll point out that it is on the campaigns tab. So if you go to the campaigns tab at the top, and then you'll see it within there, look at the top because you'll see a list view of all of your emails, and then you'll be able to see the calendar view. I do really love the calendar feature within Constant Contact. We've worked really hard this year to make some improvements to it. And one of the cool things that you can do most recently is actually to sync that with your calendar outside of Constant Contact. So you can get those reminders and things and remember, oh, I'm planning to send an email on Friday, and I can go in and make those adjustments, set up my email, get it scheduled to go out that day. Can you talk a little bit more about timing, Dave, with this 3 email series? We've got a few questions around it.
Sure. What type of timing specifically?
So people are asking, so we've showed an example here where we've basically got 3 weeks until our New Year's series ends. And really that can be flexible. Someone just mentioned that they received the 3 email series all in the same day. That is definitely not something that I would probably ever recommend ever. But if you've got, at the end of the week, you're running a New Year's sale or something like that, and that's when your campaign ends, maybe you could spread them out, one on Monday, one on Wednesday, and then one on Thursday to remind people of that last chance. That's what I think is the question that they're.
Got it. Yeah, I think, again, this is just a guideline and it really all depends. And yeah, that it could be quite, it could be appropriate for you to send them all in one day. I'll never say never because I've seen stranger things work, right? But it really depends on what the offer is, and maybe you're having a flash sale and like you're sending an email in the morning being like today's the day, one in the afternoon, and one just before it ends, or something like that. It all really depends on what your particular situation is. But this is just an idea to give you a place to start. So you try and you experiment with new things and you try to figure out what works best for you.
Awesome. So let's move on to step 2, which is to design your email templates so that you can quickly and easily create all of your future emails. So what does that look like? Well, times have really changed, especially thinking about what Peter was doing before, and so has the effectiveness of the traditional newsletter in a lot of senses. Peter's email from earlier was longer, and a lot of people probably weren't going to read it. And the other thing with that is it took Peter so long to put together an email because he was putting in all of this information and trying to figure out all these different things to write about. In today's world, I really want you to remember that people skim. So your emails in so many cases should be short and sweet, especially when you're promoting something. Someone asked about promoting a webinar series, events, or even a fundraising campaign if you're a nonprofit. Something like what we see here in this instance is going to be perfect. A picture, a paragraph, and a call to action. Just keep it simple. Anything else you want to add as a kind of an overview here?
Sure. The big thing here to realize, as you mentioned earlier in the presentation, is that a majority of emails are opened on a mobile device. Everybody has these phones with them. And so you want to think about using, as much as possible, concise messagings that look great on any device. And the good news is that if you're using Constant Contact, of course, all of the templates that we have are mobile responsive, which means they're going to adapt to whatever device that the person is reading them on. So whether it's the desktop, whether it's the mobile device or a tablet, it's going to look great in all of those places. And so really you want to design to move people to that next step. and give them the information that they need to be able to take that action. And oftentimes what we also recommend that people do is oftentimes the design of your email, it really isn't going to change much unless you've got something special going on and you have those skills and you have something where you're going to do something a little bit more design intensive. Really, this is the type of format that you're going to use from email to email. And what we recommend people do is once you get this set up, and we're going to take you through these kind of essential elements that you can use, is that what you can do is you can save that as what we call a master template. And then from there, anytime that you're ready to create a new email to send out, you just copy from that template and then you fill in the information that you're going to need to send to people. And so, Steph, I think you're going to walk people through kind of these 7 essential elements, right?
Yep, 7 essential elements. And for most time-based and even non-promotional emails, you should include the following 7 elements, and we'll walk through each of them. First up is your header information, and that's this box we see at the top of this email example. It's the first thing people see in the inbox. Some of it's going to stay the same for every email, like your from name, your from email address, and your reply. But the 2 things that'll change and you'll want to add for each individual email campaign are your subject line and your pre-header. And I want to call out that pre-header text because it's almost just as important as the subject line. It's just another chance for you to entice people to open up that email. Number 3 is your logo and colors. You want to create brand recognition with your emails. So when someone opens up your email, they instantly recognize it's from you. Number 4 is an image. Of course, every marketing campaign should really include an image that's going to catch people's attention, something that's associated with whatever content or information or promotion that you've got in the email. Next up is your message body, and this is going to be your text. You're going to want to include a short headline, the message body, and point to the call to action here. Which the call to action, I want to call that out on its own too, because this is really important. And we suggest that every email has some sort of call to action, even if it's, hey, read more on our website and drive people back there. That could also be buy this product, donate today, volunteer to support the organization. Last up is this footer information, and that's something that's also going to remain consistent email over email. Depending on what type of business or organization you have, if you have a physical location, you might want to put the address in there, maybe link to your website, include your social media channels, include your hours of operation and how to get in touch with you. This one includes a phone number, but maybe you also want to link to an email address and make it easy for people to contact you. Dave mentioned the idea of creating a master template, but you want to create a master template that has a layout, something like this with all of your branding and whatever layout that you want. This is just a recommendation. Once you set this up, save it as a template and you're going to be able to copy it email over email. It really does save yourself a ton of time by simply reusing this template and using it as a starting point each time. Once you've got the template set up, the only thing that's going to change from email to email are these things. Your header information with your subject line, your pre-header, add an image, your message body, and then of course your call to action. So you've got a template set up and now you're ready to create your email and put in your content. Dave, I'll have you talk about the email content cluster here.
Sure. So those things that Steph mentioned that are going to change from email to email are what we call the email content cluster. And so when it comes to writing these things, you really want to look at each of these things and how they can help you stand out and help you write something that gets somebody to take some type of action. And so, the first thing you're going to think about is what is that subject line? And we recommend 4 to 7 words for the subject line. We tend that works best. And when in doubt, when writing a subject line, and I think later in the year we have a subject line specific webinar planned, but for today, when in doubt, really all you need to do is let people know what's in the email, because what's really going to force people to open is who the email is from. And so if they recognize it's from you, what you're doing is allowing them to then make a decision like, oh, this is about this thing. Yes, I'm interested in that. And so that helps them decide as they're processing their email. The pre-header text is something that can change, and that's kind of like a second subject line. So it allows you to tell a little bit more of the story. We recommend 6 to 11 words for that. And then the image is going to change. And as Steph mentioned earlier, if you're going to have an image, you don't want to just have it there for the sake of having an image. You want to use an image that is going to support the message that you're sending, and you want to make sure that you do that. And of course, you can find both free and paid options within Constant Contact if you need them. Better still is to use your own images if you have them. And then it becomes about really the text and thinking about like the headline that you're going to use that pulls people into the body of the message and then leads people to that call to action, which is the button that we have there. And you might be wondering, okay, like, well, what do we write there? And we actually have some questions that you can answer that really help you create. It's kind of this 3-step persuasive strategy that really helps you write a really great email. So maybe we can go through that.
Actually, before we do that, I wanted to see if we could address this question from
Sure.
Melinda. She wants to know about newsletters where you may have more than one topic. And Dave, I know we've both probably got some tips there, but maybe you can start.
Sure. So today here we're really focused on thinking about, and I see this question coming up a lot here, is that the best emails are usually focused on one topic because you can focus people on one thing specifically and give them the information that they need in order to take that action. Now, when we are talking about the more traditional newsletter, those also can be, very valuable, and they can contain both like promotional and non-promotional material in there. But in those cases, when you are going to be using a newsletter, we often recommend that you restrict yourself to no more than 3 topics. So maybe you'll have like an introduction and then 3 things that you want to talk about. And the reason we say that is because, again, people are reading on the mobile device, people are fast moving these days, and you really want to get their attention with things that are going to be interesting to them and that they're going to want to consume, and you want to give them the ability to do that. And too much choice becomes overwhelming for people. The other thing is that it forces you to say, like, okay, well, what are the most important things that I have to send? Because I know, and this is particularly, I think the nonprofit world is particularly guilty of this, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people shaking their heads, but usually someone on the team, the executive director, somebody would be like, no, we have to tell everything all in this one email, and you get this giant thing that is just like, it's insane. But what this does is it forces you to break it up and then send actually a little bit more often rather than just trying to cram everything into one email. And you're going to start to find that people actually start consuming and taking more actions than if you tried to include everything in one email. So that's what we would recommend in those situations.
Yeah, great point. Just take that information in a snippet of the article that you want to write about, and then use a read more link. Link it to a PDF, which you can do in Constant Contact, or link it to a page on your website where they can continue reading that. And that provides some great information. Later, we're going to talk about measuring your results, and you can start to see what people are actually interested in. And then we will introduce this whole idea of segmentation, but it can certainly help you when you start to do things like that. So as Dave says, there's a persuasive way to write all of these different emails, and I'm going to show you 2 formulas. A lot of times we find that people aren't sure what to say or how to say it in an email. So there are 3 questions you want to answer, and we're going to show a for-profit version and a nonprofit version. First is the for-profit companies. So the first question you want to answer for your readers is, what are you offering? From a design perspective, this is going to serve as your headline, and its goal is to really stop the reader. You want to pique their interest and make them want to continue reading more, leading down into your message body. This next question actually is what you'll want to answer for the message body. How will it help the reader? Really focus on how something is going to help them, whether it's a promotion, whether it's a really piece of valuable content on how to use your product, or what's the value of your service. For your message body, this should really pull the reader down towards your call to action. So let them know what that call to action is going to be. And again, like Dave was saying, try to keep your email and the information here in the message body short and sweet. In a lot of cases, you may only need about 3 to 5 sentences, but just make sure you provide enough information to give the reader the details that they need in order to take that action, whatever the action is. Then that call to action, which is so important. The answer to this question is going to serve as the text that goes onto your button. What should they do next? And for this, you want to tell them specifically what it is you want them to do, and make sure that the call to action is easy to find and click on within your email. Now, if you're a nonprofit, For these questions, for the first one, this one's going to serve as your headline. What are you trying to accomplish? That's going to lead them into your message body and really catch their attention in the email. In the message body, you want to answer, why should the reader care? This text should really elaborate on the problem you're solving, a topic, or more information about your cause, or simply provide the details and explain why they matter to your reader. Again, really you only need about 3 to 5 sentences here in most cases. Then your call to action. For the text on your button here, you want to answer, how can the reader get involved? Really invite people to take part in solving the problem, especially as a nonprofit and a supporter. I love being able to support a nonprofit, so make me feel like I'm a part of the solution, even if it's as simple to volunteer, make a donation, or anything along those lines. All right, so let's move on to number 4, step 4, which is to measure your results and analyze the effectiveness of your emails. Dave, I'll have you start and talk to us a little bit about opens.
Sure. So, one of the first things that obviously, that you can look at with email marketing is opens. And opens help you kind of gauge interest, right? Are people interested in receiving emails from you? Are you interested in the things that, they're looking at? It can also help you determine the best day and time to send. And I think some people were asking that question in the questions as well. And this is of course different for everybody, but I know our friends at Google did a study and I think they found somewhere between 4 and 7 p.m. is actually a good place to start in terms of thinking in the receiver's time zone is where most opens happen within email. And so there's a place to start if you're thinking about that. But you can really start to dig into your own data and see like, well, when are most people opening? And then that help you give you a gauge on when you should be sending it. The other thing I want to mention though about opens is, again, it's a gauge, it's a leading indicator, but it's not actually a really great metric because so many things happen with opens that one of the things that goes on today, Apple introduced this thing, you may have heard of Apple privacy, and what it does is it actually obscures the open rates. It actually opens the emails on a server someplace else, and so you're not getting an accurate count of the people who actually open your emails. And so opens are a good leading indicator, gives you some idea. And if the industry averages across all industries are between usually 17 and 32% in terms of our customers. And so if you're somewhere in there, you're doing pretty well, but you basically want to set benchmarks about yourself. Now, better than opens, of course, would be clicks. And so if we go to clicks, this is actually, telling you a little bit more information because it's actually someone taking an action. So Steph, maybe you want to talk about clicks a bit.
Yeah, so I like the idea of clicks. I mentioned it a little bit earlier in the example for the newsletter is when people are clicking, they're telling you that they're interested in that topic or that product or whatever you might be linking to. And that really allows you to begin to segment your email list. And that's always a next step that we're going to recommend. People ask me all the time, well, I want to improve my results. Segmenting your list and sending relevant information is one of the best ways to do that. And in Constant Contact, there's a tool or a feature called click segmentation. You'll set up the links in your email so that when someone clicks, they're automatically added into a list based on whatever they clicked on. And for any of you who are doing that, a nonprofit newsletter, and maybe you want to start to segment your list, have those 3 topics and then use click segmentation on that read more button, and you can start to segment people that way. If you're featuring a product or some sort of promotion, if people are interested in those types of things, use that tool there, and then you can send people more on the promotions or the specific type of product that they've clicked on. But there's an even better way to measure your success. Dave, I'll have you talk about that next.
Sure. One of the things we say all the time is to make sure you go beyond opens and clicks. And I would argue in many cases that opens and clicks are kind of those vanity, the original vanity metrics, if you will, if you think about likes and comments and things like that on social channels, right? The issue is if you don't go beyond these things, and oftentimes people can get seduced by these and be like, oh yeah, we've got great opens, we've got great clicks. But if that's having no impact on your business or your nonprofit, meaning people aren't signing up to volunteer, people aren't visiting your website, people aren't buying things, well, it's not helping your business at all, or it's not helping your nonprofit. And so you really need to look beyond those things. And so, Constant Contact has some ways, particularly if you're in e-commerce, that you can connect shops, you can connect stores, and you can look at things like your conversion rate. You can look at things like your list growth too, to see if more people are subscribing, and you can look at the ROI that you're getting. If you're in another area, because it's a little bit more difficult, because those things aren't as precise as a sale that you can get on a website, you might need to go outside of Constant Contact and start to make those correlations between, oh, I sent this email and all of these orders came in, or people called me after I sent this email, or I sent this email and people started to, volunteering or signing up for that. And so you start to make those connections, and I think we have worksheets that help you do those things as well. So you can start to show that, like, oh, look, when we take this action and we do this thing, these results happen. And this is also very good when you start thinking about using a 3-email series, because you can start to see, oftentimes you can see maybe the open rates start to go down as you get, you do the, announcement, remind your last chance, but the actual people doing the conversion actually starts to go up. And so it helps you start to make and understand, like, oh, this is the email, that third one that I didn't feel like I was going to send because I felt like I was sending too much, is actually the email where most people buy or take that action. And so this is where you really start to understand what's going on with your audience and what works best for you. And so it's really important to dive into those things.
Awesome. So we're going to move on to the last step, which is step 5 here in just a minute. I believe I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about designing for today's audience, there's actually a little handout we have for those 7 essential elements so that you can save it, set it side by side as you're creating your email, or just take it and print it out and look at it as you're going. So let's move on to growing your email list. So I like to think about growing an email list in 3 buckets or main areas. So in person, when you're in front of people, you're talking on the phone. If someone has mentioned they had a great experience with your business or organization, say, hey, would you like to join our mailing list? And then you can tell them how to go about that. In your print materials, let people know there is a great tool in Constant Contact called Text to Join, and you can set that up if you're here in the US. And then anywhere online. Online means things like social media. We've talked again about how all these tools this week really start to tie together. You can ask your followers on your social media channels to join your email list and share a link, make it easy for them to sign up. You can also share a form on your website, which is something that we talked about earlier in the week. And I want to address a common question that I see all the time. People want to know where or how to buy a list. Please don't buy an email list. Email, like Dave said earlier, is a permission-based marketing channel. People are going to raise their hand and they're going to say, yes, I'd like to receive emails from your business. And there are really a ton of different reasons why you don't want to buy an email list, some of them being legal and some of them just being bad for your sending reputation and your business overall. You're not going to get results if you buy an email list. So Dave, there are some suggestions we have for growing an email list. What do you say?
Sure. So, one of the things, the major thing is, it's going to sound ridiculous, but, don't ask them to join your list, because we say that because, I can't imagine anyone waking up in the morning and say, I can't wait to receive more email today, right? So it's not really about joining the email list as much as it is, what am I going to get for giving you my email address? And so you really want to think about, well, what are the reasons that people subscribe? And when we've asked consumers about this, well, the reasons that they told us were to receive promotions and discounts, to receive exclusive content, or to show continued support for a business or an organization. And so when you think about those things, you start to reframe like how you ask people for an email address. And so you want to start thinking about, what are the things that you can do to give them a better way to do that. And maybe Steph, you'll take us through some ways that people can ask for email addresses.
Yeah, so like Dave said, there's the 3 main reasons to receive promotions and discounts, exclusive content, or just to show continued support for an organization. And that's why I sign up a lot too. And then I can see what they're sending, which is really exciting. So I love that. But when it comes down to how to actually ask for their email address, they're probably going to be a little bit hesitant at first, especially if they've just done business with you the first time. So you've got to address some of these risks that they're thinking about. So again, make sure you're enticing them with something of value. It could be one of those three things. And you also need to address those objections. Some of them are going to be about privacy. Are you going to take my information and sell it for a profit? No one should ever be doing that. But you also want to address how often you'll be sending. I don't want to sign up to your email list and get 3 emails in a day that someone mentioned earlier, or even to get an email every single day, unless that's something that I'm specifically signing up for. The other thing is you've got to make the sign up process as easy as possible. You don't want to ask for a ton of information, especially when they're signing up for the first time. You can always ask for more information from them later on. In a lot of cases, I'm just going to suggest, like what you see here in this example for the sign up form, is just to ask for their email address. And last but not least, set their expectations. Let them know what you're going to be sending and also how often they're going to be receiving those emails from you. We do have another great blog post that provides tons of other great ideas for growing your list that we'll share in the chat window. And in the link that we shared earlier for the webinars, in there is actually a webinar on growing your list, and we'll walk you through all the different tools that you can use in Constant Contact. And someone also asked about the text to sign up option, which we do talk about that in there as well. All right, so let's go ahead and recap a few things, and then we can get to all of these wonderful questions that are coming in. One, make sure you're planning your email marketing so you can send consistently, and that's going to lead to more success in the future. Make sure you're designing your emails for today's audiences. Again, in most cases, we're going to suggest short and sweet. You want to create your emails to encourage action from your readers. Remember that. Every email should include a call to action. Number 4, measure your results and measure the impact of your business and make sure that people are actually paying attention to the work that you're putting into this. And number 5 is growing your list. There's tons of ways that you can grow your list, and especially the great tools we have in Constant Contact. Just remember those main reasons that people are going to subscribe, and also think about the objections or those perceived risks that people are going to have as well. So Dave, do you want to address, we went through this approach with Peter that you talked about earlier, and
Sure,
I'll have you talk more about it.
So, I'm sure everyone's wondering, well, all right, well, this is great. You gave me some good ideas here, but does this stuff actually work? And that text that you just saw on the screen there, it actually said, be ready to fall out of your chair when you check your inbox. And so I was like, okay, I got excited, because we went through this with him and his team. And then I want to just remind you again, what it looked like before. And then after we gave him these tips and he tried to implement these things, and you're going to see there that it's not perfect. It's not in the 100% the way we've done them, but a lot better than where we started. And it was a big difference. And so I went to actually visit Peter the next day, and he had actually had his little worksheet, and he had his plan for the next 6 months. And while we were there talking, he had sent this email about his new cheese lovers monthly club or whatever it was. And while I was there, somebody called to order one of these. And so it was like, this was like perfect timing. And it was a big difference with the smile on his face and how happy he was that this was happening versus the grump who was like, it's spam and I don't want to get any messages and all of this stuff, right? And so whenever I see him now, he's always like, all right, it works. And particularly, you think about the pandemic we've just all been going through. That was how he actually was able to communicate with customers and get them to come in for curbside pickup things. And he was making dinners, and he was able to kind of keep his business going during these times he couldn't have the shop open. And so to this email specifically about the Cheese of the Month Club, he sent 2 of the emails that we recommended in the series, and he attributed over $900 from just sending those 2 emails. And so this stuff can work. Your results are going to vary, and of course, but this is going to give you a good place to start, give you some ideas and some structure to your thinking so that you're working towards a plan to get something done. And our hope would be that, you might be happy with just this plan, and that's as far as you ever go. But our hope would be you say, ooh, this is working. What else can I do? And maybe stuff you can tell us about, maybe the next steps that we can build upon.
Yeah, so everything we've talked about today, again, this series is all about the fundamentals, because often we find that sometimes pieces of it are missing or simply aren't there. And so this is where you're doing basic email marketing, and you're starting to learn what works with your emails that you're sending out and what your customers or your prospects or your supporters are really paying attention to, because again, you'll start to see that in your reporting. But like Dave said, you can always do more, and we touched on it a few times. Once you've got a few emails under your belt, start to use your data and information you know about your contacts to segment them into smaller groups of like contacts, really allowing you to send more relevant messages. Again, one of the best ways to improve your results. Again, in that webinar calendar or schedule we shared earlier, there's another webinar in there just on segmenting your email list and constant contact. And then, of course, you can always take it even a step above that. That is to really optimize your email marketing, and you'll dive into the data a lot more, further segment your contacts, and you're going to start to learn more from them over time, more that you're sending and trying out different things. And at this point, you can start to treat them as individuals with individual needs. But just a few things to think about as we start to wrap up today. And I want to mention, you can get big marketing results for your business or organization. We have tons of great marketing tools, and again, webinars here to help you from websites, online stores, email, and social media tools to help you all along the way. So if you don't already have an account, you can sign up for a free trial. Just go to constantcontact.com or click the link that we're going to share in the chat window. I do want to let you know that when we end the webinar today, a survey is going to pop up on your screen, and I would really love it if you just take 2 minutes and answer 2 simple questions for us. And I want to remind you that tomorrow is the last webinar in our series, and it's a simple recipe for social media success. For those of you who are here live, you've already registered because you're here. You don't need to do anything else. Just click on the link in your calendar or your email to get tomorrow's session. All right, Dave, so we've got tons of great questions here. Let's go ahead and dive in. So this question comes from Stephen. How was the data collected for email marketing, or how was that determined? How big of the database was calculated from it? I think that we were talking about probably like the average industry rates and things like that.
So average industry rates, so for those types of things, we actually look at constant contact data for that, and we look at that across all of our customers. We look at that our database. I think some of the other information earlier on in the presentation as well, we can actually probably reach out and send you the direct links to the sources that we got for some of that information, because some of it is ours and some of the surveys that we've done, and some of it is from outside sources as well. So we could share that with you.
Yeah, definitely. So Stephen also asks, how often should an email be sent? I know we've talked about this, and I will say, anyone who's joined us in the past, there really is no perfect answer for every single person on this call. It's really going to depend on a lot of things. And, you know, we've talked about this whole idea of, it used to be a lot of newsletters that people were sending. Well, if you're going to try to send out your emails where it's just one topic per email, you can actually probably get away with sending more frequently, because people don't feel like it's going to take them 30 minutes to read an email. Nobody's probably going to spend that much time reading an email, but the whole idea of it does look a little bit overwhelming. So Dave, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, so I think that the rule of thumb to think about here is a couple of things. One is the expectations that you set when people are signing up. And so you may say things like, hey, I'm going to send you a monthly email. And then so when they sign up, they expect to get a monthly email from you. You might say, and I know, Steph, you often disagree with me, but there are times where you could send a daily email. You could send multiple emails in a day, if that makes sense for the type of information that you're communicating to people, and the person receiving it finds it relevant. So I think that's the big rule of thumb to really think about, is if you're sending something that's really relevant to the people that are receiving it, you can send more frequently, because they're going to look forward to receiving that information. The problem comes in when you're just kind of sending the things that you want to send that they don't really care about, that, all right, this gets annoying, I'm going to unsubscribe, or worse, I'm going to mark this as spam, because like I feel like you're just sending me crap to send me crap, right? So you don't want to do that.
Again, it kind of just goes back to what you were telling us in the story about Peter, is really it's about focusing on our own audience and finding what's best for them and what they want to receive, not just so much what we want to send out and what we want them to see. So this next one from Amber is interesting. When should you take unsubscribe amounts to heart? I'll let you start.
Yeah, so this is a great one. So it's really funny, because human nature is to not want to have anything taken away from us. And you know, you can because this happens. I always have this conversation with Peter, right? He'll tell me, I just made $900+ from this email that I sent. but Joe unsubscribed. He's all upset about the Joe unsubscribed. I'm like, okay, calm down. You just made $900 and one person unsubscribed. It's okay. And so really there's a couple of things that you can do. You don't want to get, I think it's somewhere above like 3% is really where you start getting worried about people unsubscribing. And what you want to do is, I think we have a section within Constant Contact where you can let people leave comments. And oftentimes what you'll find is when people are unsubscribing, it's often because one, they've either changed their email or maybe they subscribed twice. Another thing is maybe you're a local business and they're moving away from the area, so they don't need to get that information anymore. Or quite frankly, sometimes people's interests change. And so it really has nothing to do with you and your business, unless I said like you see it happening frequently, or you start to see other things saying like, oh, I was never added to this list, or I was never, things like that. That's when you want to start thinking about like, okay, what are my practices? What am I doing? Is there something I need to look at here? Or if the content isn't what they expected, do I need to do something on the front end to set those expectations a little bit better? And so, that's when you really want to start getting worried about it. But for the most part, I look at unsubscribes as great because those are the people that aren't going to buy from you from that email to begin with. And so you're not really losing anything.
And remember, people, like Dave said, are gonna, naturally unsubscribe. Sometimes it's the beginning of the year and we're just kind of cleaning things up in our inbox. But the other thing to think about, if you're a specifically local business like the cheese shop, maybe you don't have a ton of things online to buy right now. If I move out of the area, there's a good chance that I would probably unsubscribe as well, just to clean up my inbox, because I'm not able to buy from you on a regular basis anymore. So let's move on to this next question. This one is from Gail. I have several thousand emails on Constant Contact. Is it wrong to send a blast and then delete them when they ask to? So I'll start, Dave, on this one, but you don't want to actually delete. Don't delete the email address, because if someone's saying they don't want to receive it, they can either click to unsubscribe, or you go into the system and manually unsubscribe them. You want them to be in that unsubscribed category, because if you were to accidentally upload a new list with them in there, they would go back into the system and then start receiving the emails again, which starts to get into all the technicalities of the CAN-SPAM Act and the CASL laws that they have up in Canada and really all around the world. So just make sure you are unsubscribing them that way. And the other thing that I want to add there is I'm a marketer, so I don't like the whole idea of the blast terminology when it comes to email marketing, because that just implies that you're taking this information and you're just pushing out to anyone and everyone and hoping someone out there is going to pay attention to it. Really, that's where this whole idea of segmentation and sending relevant targeted emails is going to come into play, because if I receive an email in my inbox and it's not relevant to me, I'm eventually going to stop paying attention over time, or I might just mark your emails as spam or simply unsubscribe, and none of that we want to happen. Do you want to tag on anything there, Dave?
No, I think you summed that up, really, really great. I'm a big frowner on the blast term. I know it's one that we use a lot because it's like, yeah, we're going to send a whole bunch of these emails out, but I think it sets the wrong frame. And if we could start thinking about those as more personal messages that we're going to send out to people, it helps us, be more meaningful in what we are sending. So we hopefully get a better result from that as well. But no, I love what you said.
So Yael, I believe that's how you say the person's name. I'm sorry if I butchered it, but can you provide examples for services? Maybe we'll start, Dave, I don't know exactly which area, but maybe we can start with some examples for services for types of emails to send.
Sure. So I think, services, again, services are typically a little bit more intensive in terms of decision-making process than maybe just buying a product, right? And so that often comes from, because it's usually a higher ticket thing that you pay for. And so oftentimes it's about, sending that we often talk about this combination of promotional and non-promotional emails. And so this is where you're probably going to spend some time sending emails that have some type of education involved with them. And so you're talking about maybe the pain points that your service solves for somebody. You're talking about the things that they may be going through, and you start offering them some solutions for how they could take care of this and what they could do to help solve that problem. And as when you start to do that, Then you kind of make your offer at the end, where then you can say like, hey, if you've been thinking about these things, or these things have been on your mind and bothering you, I have this service that can help you take care of that. And so those are some of the ways you can start getting people primed for whatever that your service is. And so that's something that I would think about there.
Awesome. So this next one comes from Jim. I don't know where that frog in my throat came from. Jim asks, is there a way to know if your marketing email is being sent to spam? I'll let you start.
Well, I think what you can do is you look at your deliverability rate. You can see what actual emails get through. And I don't know if there's you can see more specifically if it goes directly to spam.
Yeah, really. So there's two things to think about here when we talk about spam. There's someone actually taking the action and marking your email as spam or clicking the junk button in their email. You can see that, but it does get to be a little bit harder as to if it's not actually making it to the inbox and it's being filtered out in spam to begin with. What I would suggest that you do, and we've got Rachel as well as a few other people helping out behind the scenes, maybe you can find a few resources and share them with Jim in the chat window there as well. So it looks like we have time for about one more question. And I'm just seeing if there's any other questions that we might have missed and didn't cover in the presentation.
Well, I think we can touch on this one here from Martha, who says she's as a regulated financial firm, I don't understand how I can grow my list if you need email permission to email a prospect. And so I don't know the specifics, obviously, of the regulations that you're talking about, but I would think, I'm just thinking of a financial firm in general, where it's about education. And so what you can do is on your website, you can offer people financial education in order to get them to opt in to receive emails from you. And so it's a little bit less of asking them to buy or use products and services with you, as much as it is about educating them and making them aware of the products and services that you have. And so I would think, ways to win with money, or whatever the case may be, how to save for retirement, whatever those types of things are that you have maybe some information on, and some ways that you approach those topics. Those would be great things that people, might have questions on, that they would love to get that information from you, that they would sign up to get that. So I would think about things in that area.
That's a great question and a great point. And along those, remember those three main reasons that people are going to sign up: to support you for exclusive content, or, well, really, I don't think the coupons or discounts might apply so much to you in the financial industry, but maybe you've got a financial retirement planning webinar or an ebook that you can offer in exchange for their email address. Get them on your email list and really let them know that you'll continue to send really valuable information over time to educate them on financial planning information. All right, so I see we're at the top of the hour. So Dave, I want to thank you again for being here today. This has been great. All of you in the audience, thank you so much for sending us all of your great questions and participating throughout the webinar. Again, don't forget about tomorrow's webinar on social media, and we'll continue the conversation. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.